Katrina. Good afternoon. Welcome to Business 360, your complete view of the stories driving business, markets, and the economy. I'm Apa Ongpin, and this is the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Global debt watcher Moody's downgrades its outlook on the Philippine banks from stable to negative. The peso is trading under pressure, hovering around 61 to the dollar. Peter Lee Wu of the UA&P School of Economics joins us. White Knight to the rescue. There are rumors that media giant ABS-CBN has found a wealthy backer ahead of its annual stockholders meeting. And the United States waives sanctions on Iran for 60 days. The peso is sliding again as global rate expectations keep the dollar strong. Joining us now is Peter Lee Wu, Dean of the University of Asia and the Pacific School of Economics. Peter, thanks for joining us. Am I pronouncing your name properly?
Actually, my last name is just Yu, so
you
can just say Peter Yu.
Okay. The peso has been under pressure lately. In plain terms, what's driving the latest slide?
Well, exchange rates typically, including the Philippines, that's driven by the trade balance. It can also be driven by interest rate differentials with other countries like the US especially. And then, of course, uncertainty, political uncertainty as well. In our case, I think I took a quick look and I think our trade balance has been worsening. Well, February, March, April has been widening. So that's one obvious pressure. Well, the trade deficit's widening also because the high oil prices, we're a very oil import-dependent economy in general, and we import most of our oil. And so as the oil prices went up because of the Iran war, so our trade deficit worsened. And then the other thing is, I guess, even though we raised interest rates, I think historically our gap with the U.S. Fed rate is a little bit narrower than what it used to be. So maybe, especially given, I think, some news also out of the U.S. is saying that they expect the U.S. Fed to keep their interest rates high. So probably, I would suspect our local banks and traders are expecting the pressure to continue. So and of course, U.S. greenback typically is kind of like a safe haven. So with the uncertain times globally, you don't have more people wanting to move into the back, I think, versus the peso. So those are just some pressures I could think of.
Okay. Well, markets are now pricing in 2 Fed rate hikes. How directly does Fed policy translate into pressure on the peso?
Well, because investors, basically the global capital markets are very open. So you could, quote unquote, park your money anywhere in the world, technically. So if the differential, even if Philippine interest rates might be higher, there is usually with what do you call this, less developed countries like us, there's usually a risk premium associated with us. So if the differential between the U.S. interest rates and us is narrower, it might still be an incentive or attractive for investors to take money from the Philippines, for example, and park it in the U.S. So that's how interest rate differentials impact on dollar flows across countries. In this case, U.S. and the Philippines.
So when U.S. interest rates rise, what we're saying is the foreign money often flows out of especially local bonds and into dollar assets. Are we seeing that kind of capital outflow weighing on the peso right now?
Well, I haven't looked at the capital outflow peso figures, but I suspect that that's happening. I mean, our interest rates, though higher, probably are not high enough to compensate for the risk premium that the market sees between the Philippines and the U.S.
Well, even the yen has been under pressure. How does the peso compare with other Asian currencies at the moment?
I think, although I don't remember all of the currencies in general. It would depend on which country. I think oftentimes we are maybe weaker than the yen. But I right now I don't know. I don't remember the. I'm not sure if we have depreciated versus the yen right now or appreciated. I don't remember the yen peso exchange rate in the last few days or last few weeks.
Okay, let's bring in the Banco Central now. Given that the peso is market-driven, where does the BSP draw the line between letting market forces play out and stepping in when it starts feeding inflation? In other words, defending the peso.
Well, because our interest rates, well, maybe it's a bit of good news is the last inflation rates came in lower than
Yes.
expected, no? So that might give them a little bit of space. But typically, what the BSP does is they follow the market forces. What they don't like to happen is to see too much volatility. I mean, to see it jump around too much, or for example, in this case, being that the pressures, what do you call this, more towards depreciation. Um, they probably don't want to see it jump too high. So um, it's if it were to go up too high too far too high too fast, then this is probably gut feel to a certain extent, but if we jump to 61.5, for example, and higher, they'd probably want to step in. And if they were to step in, they would probably do more of by um, what do you call this, foreign exchange buying and selling. In this case, they probably um, sell dollars in order to weaken the pressure, for the peso to depreciate.
Do we have the foreign reserves or the fiscal space to do that?
Well, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I noticed that the headlines were saying that our reserves were at uh, near record high, if not record high. So there probably is some, you might say, some are they have some reserves to be able to spare, for, you might say, they have some bullets to use in terms of trying to defend the peso. Of course, one does not normally we probably won't have enough to do it on a long-term basis. But maybe in the short run, just to smoothen out the movement of the peso, they probably have enough.
Okay, that's good. What conditions do you think would help stabilize the peso going forward?
Well, I suspect that some of the depreciation could also have been due to local political uncertainty that seems to hopefully be playing out. Then internationally, I think the expectation the past months has been that oil prices might remain high, and but because of the recent negotiation between the U.S. and Iran, if that holds, then and we're seeing already pump prices falling. So if oil prices continue to stabilize and perhaps hopefully even come down further, then our import bill, especially for oil, will not will moderate, and so there will be less pressures also on our trade deficit, and therefore less demand for dollars for importing oil that they're cheaper.
Yeah.
So those things could contribute to um, the lessening of pressure. No, of course, over all these years, the remittances of our foreign workers abroad, or of our Filipino workers abroad, have always been a big factor as well. Um, we're still a bit far off from it, but typically, of course, the remittances come in somewhere towards the latter part of the third quarter. We're just entering the third quarter now. So that could help. Although I noticed that there were also some data that showed that remittances were not uh, growing as fast as it used to be, may even have been negative. I forget the exact statistic.
Well, is there a point at which we don't worry just about volatility and peso weakness starts becoming a macroeconomic concern? And are we near that point?
I don't think so. I mean, the Philippine peso traditionally, I think if you look over the years, it tends to have a depreciating trend. No, probably some of that because we tend to have a higher inflation, maybe relative to other countries, but perhaps compared to the U.S. Although this year is really perhaps an outlier because of the high because of the high oil prices. So with a more stable, I think inflation rate hopefully continues to come down in the future. We probably will see the exchange rate moderate, not necessarily appreciate, but it will probably moderate.
Okay, so you see the peso stabilizing this year, or do you think it might stay under pressure as long as the Fed continues to remain hawkish?
Yeah, well, absent political events like the Middle East, which is really not an economic event, it's hard to predict. Eventually, I think the Fed will also want to start to loosen up in order to what do you call this? Spur their own economy, the U.S. economy. Globally, I think a lot of countries it's been the case that their economic growth has fallen, including ours, of course. No, we've seen our GDP growth rate go down, but so has also many countries. So many countries reporting weaker GDP figures. So it's if the inflationary pressures, which for this year has been mainly caused by the higher oil prices. So if the peace deal holds and oil prices go back closer to what they were before the war, then I think that interest rates, policy rates, then central banks will also start to loosen and bring their interest rates down, and so that will give us some respite from the pressures of the depreciating pressures due to the interest rate differentials.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Peter Yu of the University of Asia and the Pacific School of Economics.
Thank you. Thank you.
From stable to negative, Moody's Ratings cuts its outlook on the Philippine banking system. Moody's cited a weaker economic environment and rising risks due to loan quality due to global and local pressures. The agency expects slower economic growth and higher inflation to reduce borrower ability to repay loans. It also warned that non-performing loans and credit costs are likely to rise despite currently stable levels. Moody said banks remain liquid but face higher risks from slower credit growth and increased funding pressures. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is giving banks some breathing room amid the Middle East crisis. The BSP has granted temporary regulatory relief to banks and quasi-banks. Under the measure, they may leave out certain unrealized losses or paper losses on peso government securities when computing their regulatory capital. In plain terms, when interest rates jump, the government banks are holding lose market value on paper, even if the banks never sell them. Normally, those paper losses eat into a bank's reported capital strength. This relief stops that, at least for now, so short-term market swings don't make the banks look weaker than they actually are. But banks availing of the relief must still disclose all unrealized losses in reports submitted to the BSP and in their financial statements. The temporary relief covers the period from April 1st to December 31. More stories when we return. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. The Sandigan Bayan rescheduled the trial of former Congressman Saldico's malversation case to June 30 after the defense asked for more time to review its legal options. Joan Manalo is on the line for more details. Go ahead, Joan.
Apa, the Sandigan Bayan 6th Division has postponed the scheduled trial of former House Appropriations Chair and Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldico's co-accused in a malversation case. The case stems from an allegedly substandard 289.4 million peso flood control project in Nauhan, Oriental Mindoro, which was allegedly contracted by Co. Today was supposed to mark the start of the presentation of evidence by the defense team of former DPWH Mimaropa officials who are facing charges in the case. Former DPWH Mimaropa engineer and co-accused Dennis Abagon was also expected to take the witness stand. However, the defense asked the court to defer the proceedings, saying they only recently received the court's ruling on several pending motions. These include their motion for reconsideration of an earlier ruling denying their request to dismiss the malversation case, which they argue is based on insufficient evidence. According to the defense, they first want to review the court's decision and determine what legal remedies remain available before proceeding with the presentation of evidence. The Sandigan Bayan 6th Division justices, however, remarked that the defense should be prepared to proceed with trial regardless of the circumstances. Nevertheless, the court granted the request for postponement to give the defense sufficient time to review and fully understand the resolution. The Sandigan Bayan 6th Division has reset the hearing to June 30 when the trial is expected to resume. Back to you, Apa.
Thank you, Joan Manalo reporting. The Bureau of Internal Revenue will auction 4 seized luxury vehicles seized from Curly and Sara Diskaya. The vehicles, worth about 26.14 million pesos, include luxury models from Land Rover, Mercedes-Benz, and looks like Maserati. They were confiscated from the Diskayas over unpaid tax liabilities. The BIR said the sale is part of efforts to recover tax debts and prevent further value depreciation of the assets. The Securities and Exchange Commission has ordered Easy Franchise to stop offering investment schemes to the public. The order also covers several individuals, including TV host RJ Ledesma and entrepreneur Jomag Magsaysay. The regulator said the group allegedly sold unregistered investments without the required licenses. Investors were promised high returns, but some did not receive payouts. The SEC said the scheme was promoted online, particularly to overseas Filipinos. The agency has halted related activities and warned of possible cases. Ledesma said he will cooperate with the SEC, saying he's only a brand ambassador and is not involved in the company's daily operations. Ledesma is the founder of Mercato Central, while Magsaysay is a co-founder of Potato Corner and a faculty member at the Asian Institute of Management. A possible boardroom shakeup is brewing at media giant ABS-CBN, with a white knight in the picture. There's speculation that the camp of former ABS-CBN chairman Gabby Lopez may have found an outside investor with deep pockets to provide the company a 2 billion peso lifeline. This as the company has yet to release its list of board nominees, even with its annual stockholders meetings set for July 24th. A source told Bilyonaryo that this potential investor had unsuccessfully tried to acquire a couple of the country's best-known media brands in the past. The same investor is said to be a specialist in debt restructuring and turnarounds. ABS-CBN has not replied to Bilyonaryo's request for comment. The Tan Caktiong family is buying the dip in Jollibee as it trades near levels last seen during the pandemic. Key affiliate Hyperdynamic Corporation bought 125,000 shares yesterday for about 15.14 million pesos at up to 122 pesos per share. JFC Treasurer Don Alexander Lim also bought 25,900 shares worth about 3.13 million pesos. This gave JFC a small boost. Today it closed higher at a price of more than 127 pesos. Megaworld is expanding its hotel footprint in Iloilo as it opens Belmont Hotel Iloilo. It's Megaworld's third hotel property in Iloilo, located within the Iloilo Business Park. Other Megaworld hotels in the estate include Richmond Hotel Iloilo and Courtyard by Marriott Iloilo. Megaworld now accounts for 25% of Iloilo's hotel room inventory and 61% of Iloilo City's office inventory. The Philippine Stock Exchange Index bounces back to the 6,100 level a day after sliding on Middle East jitters. It closed higher at more than 1.5%, with most indices ending in the green, led by services. In today's most active stocks, port giant ICT surged more than 5% to close at 905 pesos per share, while Jollibee climbed more than 4%. But the rest of Asia told a different story. A sell-off in tech and chip stocks dragged regional markets sharply lower. South Korea's Kospi plunged nearly 10% at close, triggering circuit breakers twice. Wall Street ended mixed on Monday, with investors keeping one eye on Iran. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq both closed lower, dragged down by mega-cap tech. SpaceX also added pressure to the Nasdaq after suffering its biggest single-day drop at nearly 16.5%. The Dow bucked the trend on the back of healthcare and industrial stocks.
Today's market is really reflecting the will they or won't they nature of the Iran negotiations. So, I imagine investors are stepping back a little bit, just kind of waiting to see what happens, and particularly whether the strait will be open or not, because it's not clear whether it will be or won't.
More stories when we return. Business 360. We'll be right back. Iran denied a U.S. claim that it agreed to let nuclear inspectors return after talks on a final peace deal. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said discussions with international inspectors could begin soon, but Iran said it made no new commitments on nuclear inspections. The talks in Switzerland produced a roadmap for a final agreement within 60 days. The United States also temporarily eased sanctions, allowing Iran to sell oil until August 21. Meanwhile, Tehran has agreed to have a communication line regarding ship passage in the Strait of Hormuz to avoid conflict.
I may have been among the first to say this, right at the beginning of the war, before there was even a ceasefire. I posted on X and made it clear. Everyone should know that the administration of the Strait will never return to the way it was before the war. Of course, we will fully comply with international law. People should understand that this should not be turned against us. in full observance of all international laws and through the Iranian arrangements that are also reflected in Article 5, this approach will be implemented.
The Philippines is planning to borrow up to $1.5 billion from the Asian Development Bank to help mitigate the impact of the Middle East conflict. The loan will support government programs under the Uplift framework for vulnerable sectors affected by higher oil prices and economic shocks. The ADB said it is designed to provide quick budget support during global crises. Economists added the loan would act mainly as a financial buffer and would have limited impact on the country's overall debt. As of April, the Philippine government's outstanding debt stood at about 18.47 trillion pesos. The Department of Agriculture has endorsed the proposal to raise the country's coconut-based biodiesel blend to 5%. The plan seeks to promote coconut methyl ester as part of the biofuels program under a national law. Officials said improving market conditions now allow the revival of the long-paused policy. The Philippine Coconut Authority and other stakeholders backed the move, citing benefits for farmers and energy security. Government officials said the shift could boost farmer incomes and reduce dependence on imported fuel. Meralco teams up with VinEnergo, a green energy unit of Vietnam's largest private conglomerate, Vingroup, for major renewable energy projects in the Philippines. Under the preliminary deal, they will study up to 25 gigawatts of renewable energy and storage projects. The plan includes solar, wind, and battery storage projects. The partnership will also explore possible EV charging infrastructure across the country. The project supports the Philippines' goal of raising the share of renewable energy to 35% by 2030. Any future investments will still require regulatory approval and final agreements. Mitsubishi Power has signed a long-term deal to supply parts and services for a massive gas plant in Batangas. The agreement covers maintenance, repairs, and technical support for the facility operated by LNGPH. This project is backed by San Miguel Corporation, Aboitiz Power, and Meralco Power Gen. The Mitsubishi said the partnership will help ensure stable and reliable power supply in the country. The Department of Energy has said LNG is a key transition fuel for the Philippines' energy needs. The Bureau of Internal Revenue has opened a one-time tax amnesty program for micro-businesses with unsettled tax liabilities. Qualified taxpayers with small income and limited liabilities can settle their cases for a flat fee of 5,000 pesos. The program covers old assessments, penalties, and even closed or inactive businesses with outstanding tax issues. The BIR said the initiative seeks to reduce compliance burdens and help small businesses return to the formal economy. Applications for the tax amnesty will be accepted until December 31, 2026. Globe has been included in Fortune's Southeast Asia 500 list for the third consecutive year. For 2026, it ranked at the 119th place. The list ranks the region's largest companies based on revenue and economic impact. Globe said the recognition reflects its continued transformation into a technology-driven company. The company is investing in network upgrades, cybersecurity, and digital services to support the Philippines' digital economy. We're taking a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. The defense camp of Vice President Sara Duterte is disputing reports of overlapping witnesses with the prosecution in the impeachment trial. Hannah T. reports.
The defense team of Vice President Sara Duterte is pushing back against claims that it copied or mirrored the prosecution's witness list for the upcoming impeachment trial.
Unang-una sa lahat, wala po sa tingin ko po sa aming pananaw, hindi naman po tama yung terminology na mirroring or adopting because as you know, and you were here that day, halos sabay po kami nag-submit ng pre-trial briefs. Nasa bawat panig naman po yun kung sinong witnesses at anong mga dokumento ang iprepresenta. Ngayon, pagdating doon, if they file such a request, motion, manifestation, the defense is ready to respond accordingly.
POA's remarks came after it was reported that some witnesses listed by the defense also appear in the prosecution's submissions. At the same time, both the prosecution and the defense acknowledged that the pretrial conference may not be completed on its third day. House Lead Prosecutor Jervy Luistro earlier said the process has been slowed by the need to separately mark documents, even when both sides are using the same records, after the defense declined a proposal for common marking of shared exhibits. For its part, the defense, through attorney POA, said the decision was intended to ensure each side maintains its own set of evidence for use during the trial, adding that the arrangement had already been understood by both camps. Senate Impeachment Clerk of Court Renato Bantug earlier revealed that Article 1 alone of the impeachment complaint contains about 4,000 documents. That's on the alleged misuse of confidential funds of VP Sara. Due to the sheer volume of documentary evidence, more time may be needed to mark the evidence, with the possibility that the pretrial conference could extend until Thursday. Despite the delays, both camps said the proceedings have remained orderly. After the PTC, it's expected that the impeachment court will issue a pre-trial order. That could be a roadmap leading to the impeachment trial of the VP on July 6. Hannah Tia, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Liberal Party President Erin Tañada says their group is organizing as if Naga City Mayor Leni Robredo is running for president. Tañada told BNC that the Liberal Party is in talks with Akbayan and the group Katipunan ng Nagkakaisang Pilipino ahead of the 2028 presidential elections. This despite Robredo insisting she will not run in 2028.
We continue to prepare in the Liberal Party. We are organizing our chapters in the different provinces and municipalities. And we look at it from the point of view as organizing as if she is running. Now, if she does not run, then whoever will be the candidate of the coalition, because there has been agreement anyway that it has to be only one.
Tañada says it would be up to Robredo to decide whether to accept a possible endorsement from President Bongbong Marcos. Britain is about to get its 7th Prime Minister in just 10 years. The latest to go, Keir Starmer. He is stepping down less than 2 years after a landslide election win.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
He will stay on until a successor is chosen, with a new leader expected by September. One of the most legendary former chairpersons of the U.S. Federal Reserve has died. Alan Greenspan passed away at home at the age of 100. His wife says it's because of complications of Parkinson's disease. Greenspan ran the Fed for nearly 2 decades. He was the steady hand through crisis after crisis, from the Black Monday crash in 1987 to the economic turmoil after 9/11. And while the 2008 crash would later test his legacy, to many, Greenspan will always be the Fed's maestro.
For nearly 2 decades, Chairman Greenspan has shepherded our economy through its highs and its lows. Under a steady chairmanship, the United States economy has come through a stock market crash, financial crises from Mexico to Asia, 2 recessions, corporate scandals, and shocks ranging from devastating natural disasters to a terrorist attack in the heart of America's financial center. Through all these challenges, Chairman Greenspan's prudent judgment and wise policies have kept inflation low. He has played a major role in America's strong economic growth. He has dominated his age like no central banker in history. He has contributed to a better life for all Americans, and I thank him for his service.
In sports, Alex Ayala may have fallen short in her latest tournament, but the bigger story is what awaits her next at the prestigious Wimbledon grounds. Mark Patriarca has the story.
Alex Ayala's campaign at the Bad Homburg Open may have ended early, but the Filipina star still heads to Wimbledon with a career-defining achievement. Ayala suffered a first-round exit after falling to Belgium's Elise Mertens 6-3, 6-3 early Tuesday. The 21-year-old raced to a 3-1 lead in the opening set before Mertens took control of the match behind a strong serving performance. The Belgian improved to 3-0 against Ayala, having also beaten the Filipina in Tunisia in 2023 and in Madrid earlier this year. The defeat also denied tennis fans a potential second-round clash between Ayala and 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka. Despite the loss, Ayala still reached a major career milestone after climbing to world number 30 following her semi-final run in Berlin. That ranking makes her the first Filipina ever to earn a Grand Slam seeding, with Ayala currently projected as the number 29 seed for Wimbledon, which will start on June 29 in London. Mark Patriarca, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
And that's Business 360. We'll keep tracking the moves that matter across markets, policy, and the economy. I'm Apa Ongpin. Thank you for joining us. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.